Okay, so it seems like we have a little bit of an update on the SAG-AFTRA situation. Now, this is actually coming from the r/Genshin Impact subreddit, talking about a live stream which went on with SAG-AFTRA, which just kind of puts the nail in the coffin for them, and it's very funny to see. Now, obviously, this is a post literally a day ago. I actually found this, and it was around about like 100 upvotes whenever I found it, and it's now blown up to about 4.6 thousand upvotes, which is absolutely crazy. And essentially, they say SAG-AFTRA confirms they've rejected the best and final offer last Friday that was offered to them by gaming companies, as in the SAG Q&A that was live today. And they say, I saw the live Q&A that they did on Instagram live stream, and one of the most important things they mentioned was this. So essentially, it seems like, obviously a lot of gaming companies have been offering their best and final offer, which actually offers a lot of AI protections and also a lot of other things. Now, is this the most perfect contract? Is this the most perfect offer? No, but it is definitely a massive improvement. And as they say, it's their final offer. It's going to be nothing else is going to change after this. Like, you either accept this or, this just carries on and they go and source other places. Because, I mean, these companies don't really have to put up with this. Now, they're saying, yeah, so SAG-AFTRA confirmed that they have rejected it, meaning that they've just screwed over a lot of their voice actors in the space, meaning that, a lot of them might actually lose out on work now, and all of those people that were like SAG-AFTRA, ride or die, it's really funny to see. We've looked at many voice actors in the past, including Karina and a lot of other Genshin Impact voice actors who were heavily advocating for SAG-AFTRA and pretty much be like, hey, you have to listen to them, stuff like this. And now they're rejecting a pretty decent offer whenever it comes to, AI protections and voice acting, and they're not accepting it. And obviously, now the people who have, been kind of with SAG-AFTRA all this time, defending them, protecting them, are going to feel the consequences of doing that, because they're going to lose out on a lot of jobs. As they said down in the comments down here, they're saying they're also well aware that gaming companies are starting to use VAs from other countries, as it was brought up in one question. But they seem not to care about it due to the response, which again is extremely funny, because obviously all of these people will be like, yeah, SAG-AFTRA is great, let them do their thing, you got to listen. And obviously, a lot of people did listen, but the thing is, all of these companies are now just going to other countries. They've had enough. They've gave their final and best offer. And now if they're not going to get that, they're going to go off to the UK. They're going to go off to Canada, some other places as well, which don't have these problems, which don't have these people striking. And it's just so much easier for these game companies, because it means they can have a, fluid line of voice actors that just don't randomly go on strike in front of them, which I think, obviously it's much more beneficial to them. And yeah, a lot of this kind of, striking and whatever has come back to bite them, because, game companies be like, okay, well, we'll just leave, and obviously a lot of voice actors are going to lose out on their jobs, or at least have less jobs due to this, because they're just going to go and source it from, the UK. Now, obviously, I feel like it's just funny, especially after seeing all the stuff with Karina and how much she advocated for this like crazy. It was just one of those things that was just like, I swear to God, there's going to be something like bad happening in the future. And maybe we'll see a crash out over on TikTok. I don't know. But yeah, it seems like we're not going to see another kind of offer again. Now, I don't know if they actually mean this is going to be a very, very final offer and this is actually it. Like, never again. They're just going to go somewhere else, take, a lot of their business elsewhere. Or if, maybe they're just saying it's final just to kind of pressure them into doing this. But they say, people said, do they not realize that this means the end for them? If these game companies are using other VAs, why would they ever hire SAG again? I'm just a moron, but at this point, I'm always convinced that people in charge of the strikes are buffoons that cannot see the irreversible amounts of damage they've done to their union's VAs and the industry in the United States. They say, apparently the gaming sector is only a small part of their VA branch, that it doesn't hurt them. Probably the most lucrative VA is still being done for shows and movies, I guess. So I think what they're trying to imply here is that the gaming voice acting kind of segment of SAG-AFTRA, as SAG-AFTRA obviously covers a lot of different areas. For example, we had the SAG-AFTRA, was it writers' strike? The other last year or so, and they actually managed to get a good deal out of that. The voice actors for gaming tend to be one of their smallest kind of groups whenever it comes to that kind of stuff, so they don't really care, which again is quite funny. And they're saying apparently the gaming sector, they're saying and the whole VA branch is probably an even smaller part of the whole thing, and most of the stuff they're involved in is with movie and TV. So yeah, with movie and TV, maybe they'll be fine in terms of voice acting, But whenever it comes to gaming, it seems like we're not going to see very many SAG-AFTRA voice actors getting involved. And hey, potentially we'll even see some voice actors leaving SAG-AFTRA and joining different unions, or even just maybe even moving out the country, because again, a lot of these companies just don't want to work with American kind of studios anymore. They just want to go over to the UK, somewhere like that, where they're just not going to have that issue to start with. And I think that is it's a smart business move. I mean, I don't blame them at all for doing that, because they've kind of forced it, and it's SAG-AFTRA's fault that this has actually happened in the first place. Now, they're saying precisely the SAG-AFTRA is the Screen Actors Guild. They want to avoid any chance of, for instance, Pixar making their next movie a non-SAG product. Movie and TV work is likely also more lucrative to union members. Video game work pays for the time spent in the recording booth, but movie and TV work pays for both the actor's time on set and also residuals, additional payments every time the movie or show is shown on TV, streaming, etc. If your show gets really popular, this pay could be significant. They say, then why even bother to do a stunt like this if they don't care? The strikes, because the VAs and everything, their livelihood, career, what the hell? Yeah, they're saying voice actors are considered a joke in a union. It's sad that they have no one to represent their best interests. So yeah, obviously it's a little bit sad, but also funny at the same time. As I said, there's been so many voice actors which have been so heavily on the side of SAG-AFTRA, but let's be real, SAG-AFTRA just don't treat them correctly either, and they're still going to bat for them, which I think is crazy. How someone can be that kind of delusional, where they're just like, yeah guys, go support SAG-AFTRA. I know they don't really care about us, and that they they don't care about the fact that other companies are starting to go to foreign kind of sources to get voice acting. They don't care about that, but they care about me, definitely 100%. It's just like, bro, like I feel like there's got to be some kind of level of delusion to that. And they say, keep in mind that this was decided by the higher ups at SAG. The VAs never got a chance to vote. So yeah, obviously I think it is a very important thing to kind of keep in mind here. And I still think it is funny, because obviously, although the VAs didn't choose to vote for any of this kind of stuff, the fact is that they've still chosen to join SAG-AFTRA in the first place, and now this is the consequences that they've had for kind of, being so heavily in and, ride or die with them, which I think is quite funny that this has now come back to bite them. They say, so you're going to hold them hostage, essentially, you got it, SAG. If anything, this will further expedite the hiring of VAs, not from SAG or American General. I'm not an expert, but the longer this goes on, don't they lose leverage? Which again, I definitely do think is true. The longer it goes on, the more non-US VAs are going to start picking up jobs, and then the less they rely on the US, and then maybe by the end of next year or the next year after that, a lot of these companies aren't going to be using US voice actors anymore. So SAG-AFTRA doesn't even have that power in the first place, which I think is quite funny, and they've managed to somehow turn this into a pretty terrible thing that's gone on. It's just kind of turned like a 180 on them, which yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. And obviously the Q&A that they've done kind of confirms a lot of the stuff that people have been saying. We've obviously known about the fact that, they've had a best and final offer for a long time, but yeah, they've rejected that offer, and it seems like we probably won't be getting another one from the video game companies, and a lot of these SAG-AFTRA voice actors are kind of screwed. So again, funny to see. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think, because again, I think it's a pretty interesting situation. I think that, obviously SAG-AFTRA looking more and more like clowns every single day. But hey, maybe you got a different opinion. Let me know down in the comments down below. And also, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, go to GameSubs, use my code Keza, get 10% off. Again, they've got a ton of really cool stuff over there. I definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. That's all. See ya.